Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Set the Line podcast. As always, I'm Sam Calder, joined by the one and only Braden Hoover.
Thank you. We're down in my room today, so
It's
we got a little change of scenery. The background's here.
We do.
A little bit less nice, but
for those of you who are watching our episodes, which not quite as many as are listening, but that's not the end of the world. But it's Tuesday, March 15th. It's the 15th, right? I'm not making that up. Yeah, it's 15th.
14th. You were making it up.
I was making it up. See, I'm always full of shit these days. It's the 14th, and that means that March Madness is just right around the corner. First four games start today, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Quick before we start, who's your picks for those?
Oh boy, I don't even know. I'll be honest, I don't even remember if I know who's playing.
We got Texas A&M Corpus Christi against Southeast Missouri State, and then Mississippi State against Pitt, I think, is the other one today.
I'll go with Pitt, and I will go with Texas A&M Corpus Christi.
Okay, I'll go with Corpus Christi and Mississippi State.
Okay, so, all right. That's not too bad. But let's go ahead and start things off with our first segment. Which team, most likely ranked from seeds 14 through 16, is the likeliest to pull off an upset in round one? Braden, I'll let you start.
For me, I'm going to go with Montana State. This has to do a lot with A, believing in Montana State as a competitive program, and B, Kansas State being inconsistent. Montana State's led by Raekwon Battle. He's been really, really good recently. Outside of the start of the year, really. He's been really good.
Yeah.
I got his stats pulled up real quick here. 16.7 points per game on the year, and 17.4, actually. And in the postseason so far, in the Big Sky Tournament, dropped 20, 16, 21, 17, and 25 points. I think those last two, or the first two, were regular season games, but even better for his postseason performance.
Yeah, it's a nice way to end the season for sure.
Yeah. And then additionally, Montana State as a team, top 20 in free throws per game, top 40 in three-point percentage in the country. And speaking of Kansas State, they're inconsistent. Still not fully over this cough.
My goodness, that thing is just going to be the death of you.
Mm-hmm. Kansas State's been inconsistent this year. They dropped their first Big 12 tournament game to TCU, and they have a first-year head coach in Jerome Tang. And for the most part, first-year coaches don't have a great margin track record.
My goodness. Y'all good?
Yeah.
Should I move on over to my team?
Of course.
All right. My team is the UC Santa Barbara, coming off a Big West title. Wow, holy cow.
Ooh.
And they haven't lost a game since February 20th. They're led by sophomore guard A.J. Mitchell, who's averaging 16.5 points per game, 2.7 rebounds, and 5 assists, along with a steal and a half per game, shooting 51% from the field. As a team, they're shooting 49.3%, which leads the Big West. They're also 5-0 in neutral site games, and they're taking on a Baylor team in round one that really hasn't looked all that great recently, aside from a win versus Texas. Their last two games were both losses to Iowa State. They are 4-0 in quad two games, which is what this one will be for them. But this is still a 10-loss Baylor team that's shown that they can lose in big games. So
yeah, and additionally, Baylor's identity for a lot of their recent success has been their defense, and this Baylor team is pretty bad defensively.
Yeah.
They allow somewhere in the neighborhood of, I think it's like 75 points per game, which is not great, to say the least.
Yeah.
So if they're not shooting the ball well, definitely a chance Santa Barbara could pull off the upset.
Definitely. Let's move on to our next segment. Most likely 1 or 2 seed to lose before the Sweet 16.
I actually have one of each here. So for my 1 seed, I'm picking Purdue. I've been a Purdue hater all year. I don't think they're that good. They have a tendency to play down to the level of their opponents. They barely snuck by Nebraska all the way back in November. Then they had a bad Davidson team that they allowed them to play close. They barely beat Rutgers in the Big Ten tournament. They almost blew a 16-point lead in like 6 minutes against Penn State, who is a 10 seed in the tournament. And in both the Big Ten and the NCAA Tournament, actually. Their backcourt's inconsistent. They don't shoot the three ball well. Just 32.6% as a team. Their entire game plan is just based around Zach Edey. So a bad game from him or a really good shooting night from an opponent is going to pose issues because a lot of it is just Edey taking shots in the paint. He shoots like half of their shots when he's on the court.
Yeah, I was going to say, it'd be crazy to see what Purdue would be like without Zach Edey.
Yeah.
Because nobody can guard him. Nobody in college is 7'4".
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's a matchup nightmare for whatever team faces him.
Yeah. And I think that the team they'll lose to is going to be the Memphis Tigers. They have two great players in Kendrick Davis and DeAndre Williams. Those two combined for 40 points per game. Each of them shoots the ball really well. above 40% from the field, with Davis shooting 30-something% from three, like 34.7.
Yep.
DeAndre Williams is above 42% from three. He's above 50% from the floor. As a team, the Tigers shoot 35.6% from three, which is pretty high up there in the country. I don't have the exact ranking, but I think it's top 50, maybe top 40. So, very good team. Watch out if you're a fan of Purdue.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's always at least one seed that loses in the round of 32. I think Baylor last year lost in the round of 32.
UNC.
So, So, anything can happen. You never know when an upset's coming. Did you want to do your 2 seed as well?
I'll do your 1 seed, then I'll do my 2 seed.
I actually did not do a 1 seed.
I'll let you do your 2
but
seed.
I did do a 2 seed, and that's going to be UCLA. If they were fully healthy, I would not be picking them because when they're fully healthy, they're one of the best teams in the nation. They're second in KenPom, and they have the best defensive team in the country. But the loss of Jalen Clark really hurts, and basically their best forward, in Adem Bona, I think that's how you pronounce it, is also banged up. And for a small team, they really need him. With Clark on the floor, UCLA gave up just 83 points per 100 possessions, so his absence is going to be very much felt. In the round of 32, they would face the winner of Northwestern and Boise State. Northwestern is 7-6 in quad 1 games, and Boise State is also one of the best defensive teams in the country. So either of those two teams could very easily knock off UCLA.
Yeah, UCLA they've still been a solid team, of course, without Jalen Clark. They almost knocked off Arizona to win the Pac-12 championship.
Yep.
Amari Bailey has really stepped up in the last couple games, so I could see him playing a big role down the stretch and leading UCLA on a run. However, without Jalen Clark, it's going to be really tough defensively. And as a result, I was telling, I think you like a week ago, that UCLA was probably one of my title picks.
Yeah.
It was going to be between them and Houston. Right now, I have UCLA losing in the Sweet 16 to Gonzaga. And, a Northwestern or Boise State win over them would not surprise me.
Nope.
For my 2 seed that I think loses early, I have Texas. And this more has to do with Texas A&M than Texas. Texas is a great team, but Texas A&M is not a 7 seed. They should be like a low 5 seed, high 6 seed, in my opinion.
Just beat Alabama like a week ago.
Wade Taylor IV and Tyrese Radford are a great counter to Marcus Carr and Tyrese Hunter in the backcourt. Texas A&M has good size as well to deal with guys like Timmy Allen and I forget his first name, but Dessou. Dylan Dessou, I think his name is.
I can fact check that if you want.
Yeah, he's a power forward for Texas.
Okay.
A&M had some bad losses early in the season to Colorado, Murray State, and Wofford, but went 15-3 in the SEC. And then additionally, Texas also has a tough first-round matchup with Colgate, who shoots the 3-ball at the best rate in the country, like 40-something%.
Holy cow.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I think they're like 42% as a team.
That is very dangerous.
So 2 really tough matchups out of the gate for Texas. Even if Penn State beats A&M, it's not going to be easy for the Longhorns because Jalen Pickett's really good, and I think he could carry Penn State to a win.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Well, yeah, because Penn State they were the runner-up in the Big Ten tournament, weren't they?
With Pickett playing pretty poorly, honestly.
Yeah, so I think that's a fantastic matchup, round one. That's going to be a fun game to watch. It is also Dylan Dessou, as you were saying. So I just wanted to fact check that for you. But that Penn State A&M game is going to be a fun one.
Yeah, another cool note is that I might be in attendance for that Texas round of 32 game.
That would be awesome. That would be really cool. Moving on to our next segment, which first 4 team is most likely the 11 seed of the first 4 teams?
You don't believe in the 16 seeds?
I really don't. I can't say I do. Which 11 seed first 4 team is most likely to be the 6 seed?
For me, I have Arizona State, and for me, this has a lot to do with TCU being inconsistent, similar to Kansas State, as much as it does with Arizona State, because Arizona State's been pretty up and down throughout the year too. They've lost to teams like Texas Southern, but they've beaten teams like Arizona on the road.
Yeah.
So really kind of a confusing team. They play Nevada tomorrow, I believe, and then would face TCU on Friday. The team scores the ball really well. I guess not really well, but pretty well, putting up over like 70 points per game. They don't shoot the 3-ball well, and they suck at the free throw line. They're 264th in the nation in free throw percentage. So, like I said, picking the Sun Devils to win has a lot more to do with TCU not being very trustworthy for me, even though they were one of my preseason Final Four picks, I think.
Really?
I listened to that episode, and here's our Final Four picks from the start of the season. For you is UNC, Duke, Kansas, and Kentucky, I think.
So I just went with the Blue Bloods because I don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
And then I had Houston, Arkansas, UNC, and TCU.
Okay.
And I think 3 of my teams are... No, wait. Yeah, Arkansas and TCU are in the same region. Houston's not. So I could go 2 for 4.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
That's not bad at all. That's better than what I've got going.
Right.
So.
But point is, Arizona State has shown flashes of their potential, like that win over Arizona, where they won in a half-court buzzer beater. Could definitely see them knocking off TCU and making a run.
Yeah, I actually also have Arizona State. You touched on the win against Arizona. Also beating teams like Creighton, USC, and Oregon on the season. They're one of the better defensive teams in the country, 28th in adjusted defensive efficiency. But offensively, you kind of touched on is where the concern is. Shooting only 41% from the field and 31% from three. They only have 2 guys averaging 10-plus points per game, and that's Desmond Cambridge Jr. and DJ Horn. They're going to need some guys to obviously step up and make shots, but you touched on TCU. If they're able to do that, they could be a very sneaky good team.
Yeah, plus Mike Miles has been banged up recently for TCU.
Yeah.
I think he should be good to go by now, but something to keep an eye on.
Exactly, yep. And then our last segment before we make our picks, favorite Cinderella. Braden, I'll let you do your first one.
For me, it's Drake. They're super experienced. Their starting 5 is older than like 5 different NBA teams. And their best player is a sophomore, too. Tucker DeVries, absolute bucket. On the season, putting up 19 points per game, 5.6 boards, while shooting 45.7% from the floor, 38.7 from 3, and 83.8 at the line. I would be shocked if he comes off the court at all in this tournament, honestly.
Yeah.
He'll probably play the full 40 minutes in each game. Additionally, Drake as a team, 22nd in the nation in free throw percentage, 32nd in scoring defense, and 32nd in three-point percentage. So they're good on both sides of the ball, and they're going to pose a really tough test for Miami. And really, that's why they're only 2.5-point underdogs.
Yep.
Which seems like a very short line. And I would be nuking Drake right now.
I would absolutely as well. My first pick is Providence. This was a Sweet 16 team a year ago. But this year, it's all going to come down to which Providence team shows up. It's going to be either the Providence who started 14-3 with wins against UConn and Marquette, or it could be the Providence that ended on a 7-8 run and lost in the Big East quarterfinal. They did, however, in that 7-8 run, have close losses, and they beat Creighton as well, so that's a nice win. They're led by Kentucky transfer Bryce Hopkins, who's going to get to play his former team. And Bryce Hopkins on the year is averaging 16 points and 8.5 rebounds. And he can shoot 37.8% from beyond the arc.
I feel like that's basically the only Providence player you can rely on to make threes.
Pretty much, unfortunately. Yeah, you're not entirely wrong on that. 35% as a team. Noah Locke is shooting it from 39%, but of impact players, that's pretty much it. Besides Hopkins, but
they don't shoot a whole lot of them as a team, but when they do, they're not terrible at it. I guess is how you would put it.
Yep, absolutely. I like their chances versus a banged up Kentucky. Xavier Wheeler, Cason Wallace, and C.J. Frederick have all been banged up recently, and Kentucky in 2 of their last 3 games were losses to Vanderbilt.
Yeah,
so,
it's been really up and down for them this year.
It's been a very, very weird season for Kentucky because obviously they have guys like Oscar Tshiebwe who's putting up 16 and 13 a night, and then they're still disappointing. So I don't know. It's a weird Kentucky team. Like you said, they were in my Final Four prediction before the season started, but I can't see it at this point.
And I feel like overall, John Calipari teams at Kentucky at least seem to just underwhelm in March. Look at last year. They played St. Peter's first round and lost in overtime. And really, in general, I don't know the last time he's made the Final Four. I think it might have been the year with, who was it? It was the year they lost to Wisconsin, I think.
Yeah, the Harrisons, and they had, I think Cat was on that team as well.
Yeah, I think that was that team that went like 38-0 before that game.
Yeah, because everybody was picking them. Mm-hmm. I remember that was the only year that I ever picked the champion right. So that's a special year for me
as well.
Yeah, there we go.
So speaking of picking the champion right, actually we got one more Cinderella first.
Yeah, I'll let you read yours off.
Well, I think looking at your notes here, we have the same one.
There we go.
And that's going to be Furman. They average 82.1 points per game, and if they can get Virginia into a track meet, I really like their chances. They're not exceptional at shooting the 3-ball, but they're top 90 in free throw percentage and just 1% outside the top 50. And they're led by, I think his name is Mike Bothwell.
Yep.
He's putting up 18 a game. His prize picks line is 12.5 right now, which seems extremely low.
Yes.
And I'll probably be betting on that come Thursday.
Yep.
But Furman is a very balanced team, and I think that if this game has more than, 100 possessions, even 100 possessions seems high, but 100 possessions, I think Furman has a great chance to win because Virginia's going to have to slow this game down.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, Furman is a very, very good shooting team, 48% from the field. They're 0-2 against quad 1 teams, but I mean, in those 2 games, first one being North Carolina State. Their starters shot 15 of 45 from the field
Ooh.
and 7 of 24 from 3, whereas NC State starters, 25 of 49 from the field, 10 of 26 from 3. Then versus Penn State, starters shot 19 of 48 from the field, which isn't terrible, and then 6 of 24 from 3, whereas Penn State starters shot 20 of 44 and 11 of 27 from 3, and that was only a 5-point loss.
Yeah.
So the shot percentage was down in both games significantly. And that'll fly, and that's fine in November and December, but come March, obviously that can't happen. And you talked about Virginia a little bit. They've been known to struggle offensively. So I think if Furman can make some shots, I think they have a very possible upset chance here.
Yeah, and additionally, Virginia has been very up and down recently. From February on, they have losses to Virginia Tech on the road. They have a 2-point win over Notre Dame at home. A 15-point loss to a bad Boston College team on the road.
Yep.
A loss to North Carolina on the road, and a loss to Duke in the ACC semis where they only scored 49 points.
Yep.
And I think Duke is a team that's really good. I think they're underseeded as a 5 seed. I would put them on at least the 4 seed line, maybe even a 3 seed.
Spoiler alert: I have Duke as one of my Final Four teams, so I'll talk about them later.
Yeah, but I think that Virginia is going to have a really tough test against Furman here.
Yeah, and if Furman wins this game, they would play the winner of San Diego State and Charlton, and I can see them beating either of those teams. So I could very well see Furman making a Sweet 16, at least Sweet 16 run.
Yeah, and Furman's only a 5.5-point underdog in this game too,
Yep.
which is a very short spread for a 4-13 matchup.
Yeah. Moving on to our final 4 picks. Braden, I'll let you read yours off first.
Out of the South region, I've really gone back and forth on this one a number of times. There's so many different teams I think that could make it out of this, with Alabama, Arizona, Creighton even, to a lesser extent Baylor. I'm just not really a huge believer in them, but they're battle-tested in the Big 12. But right now, and it'll probably stay this way, I have Arizona.
Oh, you son of a bitch.
Why? Bama?
Yeah.
I had Creighton for a while, but I just don't see them getting past Arizona. They've already played once this year. Arizona beat them, I think, 82-79. So maybe Creighton can get the better of them the second time around. But at the same time, Creighton's got a tough road to get there. NC State's got some good players with Terquavion Smith, Jarkel Joyner, and DJ Burns has been playing really good recently. Then they have to go through Baylor, then Arizona, and then Alabama. I just don't see them winning 4 of those games in a row. And I think Arizona, against either a Missouri team that struggles offensively at times or Utah State team that turns the ball over a lot, will have an easy route to the Sweet 16 for the most part.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with them out of the South. Out of the East, I'm going to go with Duke. I have them going through Oral Roberts as maybe their toughest game in that region, honestly.
Yeah.
I have them going through Oral Roberts, Tennessee without Zakai Ziegler, Memphis, and then Marquette. Marquette is, or actually I have Kansas State now. I've gone back and forth on that one too. But either way, I'm not a huge believer in any of those teams outside of Duke in the South, or the East, I think, right?
Yeah, Duke's the East.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm going to go with Duke there. Out of the Midwest, I've got Houston. They play in Birmingham, so it could be tough against Auburn in the second round of the tournament.
Yep.
However, I just think they're so much more talented than every other team in this region. And I think that they'll get to dodge Texas. They might dodge Indiana as well, because Indiana's got a tough matchup against Kent State in the first round.
Yep.
So they could have an easy path. And then finally, out of the West region, I have Kansas. I think Jalen Wilson is just too good to let this team down. And I think that they'll avoid UCLA because I think Gonzaga beats them. And I just think they match up well with the Zags.
I like those picks. My pick from the South, obviously, I had to go with my team, the Alabama Crimson Tide. I mean, they really just, they do it all. They're a complete team. They're the best rebounding team in the country. They play fantastic defense. They score, they have a ton of depth. I mean, there's a reason they're one of the best teams in the country.
Got the freshman of the year, too.
Yep. Out of the East, I also have Duke, like I said. I think we were talking about it on Sunday night when it came out. Duke is the only 5 seed that we would take Oral Roberts to lose to. Which is kind of too bad, because it would be cool to see them make a run. And it's not to say that it's impossible that they won't, but I don't know. Duke's a tough draw in round 1 for them. But
they've been really hot recently.
They have been super hot recently. 8 straight games that they've won, including an ACC championship. So this is a very good team who now is fully healthy, because they battled some injuries, in particular Jeremy Roach, but they look very, very dangerous now that they're back to full health. Out of the Midwest, I'm also taking Houston. Really, not much I need to say about Houston. They are probably a top 2 team in the country in every facet. 2 great forwards in Jarris Walker and Juwan Roberts. Jarris Walker's probably a lottery pick. They have the American Defensive Player of the Year, Jamal Sheed, a great 6-man in Reggie Chaney, and a great coach in Kelvin Sampson. So this is another very complete team. And then out of the West, I am going with the Yukon Huskies. They have one of the best resumes in the country with wins over Alabama, Marquette, Creighton, Iowa State, and Oregon. They're 6th in adjusted offensive efficiency and 18th in defensive efficiency. They're 312th in luck rating. I know you're a big luck rating guy, so I threw that one in there for you.
I've been a big fan of luck rating since it told me Providence was a fraud last year.
Yeah, there you go. They're averaging over 39 rebounds per game. They're going to need to be efficient shooting the ball, which is not always their strength, but if they can get some shots to fall, this could be a very, very fun team to watch.
It's very hard to guard Adama Sinogo as well.
Yep. Yeah, he and Jordan Hawkins are a nice 1-2 punch. National championship picks, Braden. Who wins it all?
I have the Houston Cougars winning it in the city of Houston over the Duke Blue Devils for their first national championship since the days of Hakeem Olajuwon, who was then Akeem Olajuwon, and Clyde Drexler.
Wow. That would be impressive.
I think it'd be 40 years since that one.
Holy cow. I have Houston making it to my championship game, but I gotta go with my guys. I gotta go with the Tide. So I think it's gonna be a very fun tournament to watch. I feel like there's so many teams that, and it's the case every year, but you can make a case for so many teams that it's awesome to see all the upsets. It's awesome to see all the close nail biters. And as heartbreaking as it is to have your bracket get busted, it's always fun to see an upset every now and then.
Like I had Kentucky losing the second round last year to Murray State, but even when Murray State lost to St. Peter's, I was still okay with it.
Yeah,
that's the beauty of March.
There you go.
And then especially once your bracket's busted, then you don't care about it at all anymore.
Exactly.
You're just rooting for all the upsets. Yeah, it's awesome.
You can just enjoy the tournament. But ladies and gentlemen, I believe that is all the time we have for this one. Thank you guys for listening, and we will catch you in the next one.
Adios.